September 21st, 1948. Rupert Stadium, Jersey City, New Jersey. A boxing arena filled to capacity, the air holding the specific pressure of a crowd gathered for something it has been waiting months to see. The ring is lit at the center of the building, the rest of the arena falling away into the noise and the smoke and the specific atmosphere of a major fight night in the American boxing world of the late 1940s. Two men are about to settle the question the boxing world has organized itself around. Who is the world middleweight champion? One of the two men is Marcel Cerdan. He is 32 years old, born in Algeria to French parents, raised in Morocco and then in France, and by 1948 the most celebrated French athlete of his generation. Celebrated in France the way that the combination of extraordinary sporting ability and a personal quality that photographs well and translates across languages produces celebrity. He is not merely very good at what he does. He is, in the considered judgment of the boxing world of 1948, the best middleweight fighter in the world. The only remaining question is whether he can prove it against the man who currently holds the title, Tony Zale, who is standing on the other side of the ring waiting for the referee's signal. At ringside, in a seat that was arranged for her, is Edith Piaf. She is 32 years old. She arrived in the United States earlier in 1948, working to establish herself in the American entertainment market in the way that a European performer who has exhausted the available space in Europe must eventually attempt. She has been performing in New York, meeting the right people in the right rooms, doing the work of making the American entertainment world understand what it is looking at when it looks at her. She is, in the French chanson world, already what Cerdan is in the boxing world, the best of her kind, in her generation, in her tradition. She is in this American arena in Jersey City tonight because Cerdan is in it, and Cerdan is the person who has made the specific calculation of her life in the last year more complicated and more real than it had been before. The relationship between Piaf and Cerdan was known to some people, to the circles they moved in, to the people who arranged the ringside seat. What was public was the fight. What was visible to everyone in that arena was the contest in the ring. What was also in the arena, visible to the people who knew where to look, was a woman at ringside watching a man she loved walk out toward the most important night of his professional life. The bell rang. The fight began. The fight went 12 rounds. In the 12th, Tony Zale went down and did not get up in time. Marcel Cerdan was the world middleweight champion. The arena's response was immediate and large. The specific response a large crowd produces when a question it has been asked is answered with a definitiveness it did not expect at this exact moment. The noise, the movement, the quality of a crowd receiving a result it had been hoping for and had not been certain of until the moment it became certain. At ringside, Edith Piaf. This is the second rehook, because the question it opens is what she saw from that specific position in that specific moment that was not available to anyone else in the building. She saw a man she loved become the best in the world at the thing he did. That experience, not as an observer of a sporting event, not as a spectator of a public achievement, but as the person for whom the private man behind the public achievement was the actual subject, is an experience that almost no one has, and that is almost never recorded when it is had. The crowd saw the champion. She saw Marcel. The crowd saw the culmination of a career. She saw the face of someone she knew at the moment when everything his professional life had been building toward arrived. What she felt in that seat in the 12th round Watching Cerdan stand over Zale and understanding what was happening was a quality of joy that was also, underneath the joy, something else. The specific fear that comes when you watch someone you love at the absolute top of everything, when there is no higher place to go, when the achievement is so complete that you understand, without wanting to understand it, that the only direction from here is different. Not immediately, not necessarily soon, but the knowledge that the moment you are watching is the best moment, and that what follows will be something else, is the knowledge that lives underneath the joy of watching someone you love win everything. This is the second payoff, and it is the thing that gives the months after this night the specific weight they carry. She was 32 years old in that seat. He was 32 in the ring. The title was his. The arena was making the noise arenas make. And she was at Ringside in Jersey City on a September night, holding everything she felt, which was more complicated than anything the press photographers capturing the moment could have seen from the outside. What was visible was a woman at ringside watching a man she knew win the world championship. What was not visible, not to the cameras, not to the boxing press in the adjacent seats, was what the knowledge of both things at once felt like to carry in a seat that nobody else in the building occupied. Marcel Cerdan had been building toward this night for a decade. The record in the years before the championship fight was the record of a fighter who had, in each bout, been answering the question the boxing world was only slowly formulating. Was this man as good as the specific quality of his performances suggested? The answer, consistently, had been yes. He had fought his way through the European boxing world of the 1930s and 1940s, his career interrupted by the war, resumed after it, restarted on a trajectory that the interruption had not deflected as much as it might have deflected a lesser fighter. He had come to the United States in 1948 because the title was in America, and the title was with Tony Zale, and the fight that his career had been building toward was the fight that would answer the final question. Better than Zale? The best in the world? Piaf had followed a parallel trajectory in the years since the liberation of Paris. The reputation built during the occupation years, the performances at the ABC, the chanson réaliste material, the particular quality of presence that the French entertainment world had recognized and continued to recognize, had begun to translate internationally in ways that required her physical presence in places that were not Paris. America was one of those places. New York was where the American version of the international entertainment world organized itself, and she had come to be seen by it and heard by it, and to let it understand what it was looking at. They were both in America in 1948, at the same time for different reasons, and those reasons had converged on Rupert Stadium in Jersey City on September 21st. This is the first payoff, and it is the specific quality of the ringside seat that makes it. She was not watching this fight the way the rest of the arena was watching it. The rest of the arena, the boxing press, the promoters, the gamblers, the fans who had paid their way in, was watching to see which of the two men in the ring was the better fighter, which would carry the title out, which would have the claim over the next months to be called the best in the world at this particular thing. The answer mattered to them consequentially, but from outside. From the position of people for whom the outcome was significant, but the man in the ring was a public figure, known through his record and his image and the facts his career had accumulated. She was watching Marcel Cerdan. But here is what nobody mentions, the specific nature of what the ringside seat gave her that the rest of the arena, including the boxing press filling the nearby seats and writing their accounts as they watched, did not have. She knew both things simultaneously: the public contest and the private person. The crowd knew the boxer. She knew the man who had become the boxer, the person who had arrived at this American arena carrying everything a decade of fighting had built, and what it had cost, and who he was outside of the ring that made the inside of the ring make sense. She watched the public event while holding the private knowledge. She held both at once, in that seat, in that arena, on that particular night in New Jersey. They left Jersey City together after the formalities had concluded, the media obligations, the celebration that a world championship win requires, the long business of a professional sporting victory settling into what it is going to be. The months that followed were the months that contained the relationship in the form it had taken, the time available to them and the space their respective careers opened, the specific arrangements of a situation that was not simple and was not easily explained to people outside it. During this period, she was writing a song, or had been writing it, the song assembling itself from the emotional material the relationship was providing, in the way songs assembled themselves for her, from the inside out, from the feeling first and the words around it. The song would be recorded and released as Hymne à l'amour. She wrote it while Cerdan was still alive. She wrote it from the feeling the ringside seat in Jersey City had held, the specific quality of loving someone who was also doing the impossible thing with their life, who was at the peak of everything they were, and who you watched from a seat that nobody else occupied, because you knew both the public and the private, and held them together. On October 27, 1949, Marcel Cerdan boarded a flight from Paris to New York. He was traveling for a rematch against Jake LaMotta, who had taken the title from him in a fight in Detroit in June of that year. A fight Cerdan entered with a shoulder injury that the boxing world later considered a significant factor in the result. The plane went down over the Azores. There were no survivors. Piaf was in New York when the news reached her. She was in rehearsals for a concert. She went on stage that night anyway, at someone's request, or at her own, or because the stage was what existed when nothing else did. She went on. She sang. This is the main payoff, and it reaches all the way back to the ringside seat. The night of September 21st, 1948 was the best night, the night before what followed began to follow. It was the night that Hymne à l'amour was written from and written for. The feeling of the ringside seat, the specific joy of watching someone you love become the best in the world at the thing they do. The complicated knowledge of both the public triumph and the private person. The song existed before the crash. After the crash, she sang it with a different kind of weight, the weight of a song that had been written for a living person and now had to speak for a person who was not. She sang Hymne à l'amour for the rest of her life. In each performance, the song carried what the ringside seat had held and what the years after it had added. The joy and the fear and the crash and the concerts she gave anyway, and the stage that remained when everything else was gone. The arena in Jersey City is gone. Cerdan has been gone since October 1949. The recording of the song is still here. The feeling she brought to the ringside seat on September 21st, 1948, the feeling that made the song possible, is still audible in it. She was at Ringside the night he won the world. She was the only person in the building who knew both things at once. She held them there, in that seat, in that arena, on that night in New Jersey. And when the night was over, she wrote it down in the only language she had for it.